I've made over 1,000 reels, and this is what it taught me about burnout. Hi, my name's Julianne. I've been a social media manager for about 7-8 years, and in this time period, I've created over 1,000 reels, not including my own personal brand. So this is what 1,000 reels, ADHD, and burnout taught me about life. Low-key, I used to think burnout just meant that I was lazy. And that just threw me down a huge spiral. So every time I got motivated and I was like, okay, I'm gonna create. But the thing is, I make content for a living. And some of the best reels I have ever made came after a full-on spiral. Hey Siri, what does burnout mean in terms of work? In terms of work, burnout refers to the feeling of mental and physical exhaustion due to prolonged stress. It's a type of stress linked to work that includes being worn out physically or emotionally and may involve feeling useless, powerless, and empty. And you can't tell me that none of us have ever experienced this before, especially when you put on so much pressure in order to perform, in order to put out 2-3 pieces of content out every single day because you want to be a content creator. But before I actually understood what the heck to do with my burnout, I just thought I needed more motivation. I needed another cold brew. I needed more caffeine. Give me another Monster. Give me another Alani. Freaking give me another Notion template. What if burnout is actually your creative inside self whispering to you, hey babe, you're not okay. It's time for you to stop pretending that you are. Once I realized, it completely wrecked me, but it also shifted the way that I create and the way that I write, both for myself and also for my clients. The way I grew up was very performance first. I grew up in a lifestyle in a school that always rewarded high achievements. So what does that mean? You read a book, you get a quiz, you get a couple of points, and you keep building that up. We have a system where if you got enough points, you were able to get rewards every single week. And at the end of the school year, what happened was people who got the highest amount of points would get a medal, but also get this freaking crazy scholastic field trip to literally the warehouse. And not to brag or anything, I literally met Clifford, the big red dog. So the energy was very high achieving, people pleasing, get going energy. When I started creating, I didn't think twice about it. I just kept pushing myself farther and farther in. I made content, I was just trying to ace somebody else's rubric, basically just checking off all of the boxes and getting points, trying to achieve that feeling that I was getting in elementary school. So one day I found myself in a standstill. It had been at least 2-3 weeks since the last time I created something for myself. And I was focusing a lot on client content, but even the client content that I was recording, it didn't feel authentic to me. Even though we were hitting on all of the messaging points, I didn't feel like there was a spark that made me inspired when I looked at that content. And so I stared at my calendar and I checked my video editing app and said, wow, it's been quite a while since I last created something. And that sent me down a spiral. It sure did. It sent me down a spiral because I looked at all of the previous content that I was creating and I watched myself and I didn't know who I was looking at. Who is this person in the video? I didn't understand their vernacular. I didn't understand the way the video looked. I really felt as if I was just being replaced by an actor version of me trying to make sure that the character I was playing on screen was someone that everybody would like. So that's when I realized I wasn't just burnt out. I was emotionally bankrupt. I was creating from pressure and not presence. And then something cracked wide open during that time. So this is when a year ago I got diagnosed with ADHD. I had gone through some of the worst months on planet Earth. Would not recommend. And I finally mustered up the courage to get to a psychiatrist and we went through some intensive testing. And when I finally got the results back, I remember staring at the wall for about 3 hours crying because I was just thinking how much time have I wasted, or how many things have I gone through that I didn't have to go through? How many struggles did I have going through school? How many friendships, anything that have been broken because of the way that I was that I didn't know. So when I got the diagnosis, I didn't feel relief, I felt grief. I was grieving over the amount of time in my life that I just didn't have, it just didn't work. So all of these meltdown, all of the missed deadlines, and all of my overstimulation spirals, it wasn't just me being a mess. It was, those were actual symptoms. So symptoms that I had just pushed my way through like I did with everything in my life. Symptoms that I just masked, symptoms that I monetized over. And suddenly, after going through the emotion diagnosis, my creative timeline finally made sense. My burnout that I kept going through, it wasn't just random. It didn't come random. It wasn't just random, it was cumulative. So yes, was I angry at how long it took me to get answers? For sure. But I was also finally free to stop completely blaming myself, which meant I had to figure out, how the heck do I heal from something like this? It's been 22 years of me feeling something. How does somebody even begin to heal from something like this? So I paused. Not dramatically, not in a, oh my God, I'm going to go offline and I'm gonna change my smartphone into a flip phone and I'm going to in the wilderness and I'm gonna, oh, what's that one show called, Naked and Afraid? I'm gonna be naked and afraid in the wilderness, touch grass forever. Not in that way. That's not how I disconnected, but I was just quiet. I didn't post, I didn't pitch, I didn't breathe. I stuck with my clients, but I stepped back a bit from new client work. I really just stuck with the base of the base that I needed in order to survive. I stopped thinking and trying to think about content, because at this moment in time I was thinking every day, how can I make this content? How can I make that content? And in that space, I think about 2 to 3 months off from creating anything, something weird happened. I missed sharing. In my day-to-day life, I'm a big sharer. I talk, not to everybody, but to specific people. My parents, my brother. We talk a lot about random stuff. We share, but that wasn't enough for me. I like to share, I like to create community. That's just something that comes with me. In high school, I was always writing things with my best friend. We created little documents where we were sharing stories. I always shared some sort of story, whether it was real, whether it was fictional. I freaking love reading books. That is just my outlet. That's how I share myself to the world. And during that time, I missed it. But I didn't miss the aesthetic. I didn't miss Instagram changing their freaking algorithm every other day. No, I missed the meaning of storytelling. So that's when I knew I didn't have to quit. Being online or sharing my story or creating isn't something that I needed to quit. I just needed to slowly get back into it while finding the meaning behind what I wanted to share. And what I had to say really came from something I had been avoiding sharing online. So when I came back to creating content, I didn't get straight into what's trending, who's the new viral creator. That's not what I came to do. I started with what hurt me so bad that I had to quit creating content or creating in general. What experiences in my life led to me having such a massive breakdown point that I had no choice but to see a psychiatrist and get diagnosed? What did I go through in my life that really just took me out of the loop and just completely made me crash for so long that I spent those 3 hours staring into the wall and crying, mourning my childhood? And that changed everything in terms of content. So my reels started flowing, my clients started connecting, and every single story that I told hit different, not because they were viral, but because they were real. So the stories that I started sharing through my client's account, they were based in something real. So instead of just asking my clients, oh, what do you like? Or what kind of content do you like? No, I sat down with them. I literally turned on my notes app and I just asked them questions about their story. What is it that made you start your business? What were your lowest points? What were your highest points? What made you cry? What made you sob in the bathroom at 3 o'clock in the morning? But also, what made you laugh with your family? family. Those moments really changed the experience of creating reels for me, and also started taking away my burnout, because I started seeing the results of community. People were watching the stuff that I put out, not only for me, but for my clients, but they were not just watching, they were feeling, and I was feeling it too. I've been able to create with feeling, and that's what I can tell you about burnout. Burnout comes from a place of having a limit to your jar. You've reached the bottom of your jar and you have nowhere to go. But when you establish your stories in the form of what you have lived through and everything that you have experienced, think about the earliest memory that you have. Once you establish roots in your creativeness, you will see that burnout comes a lot less. Now, am I telling you it's going to be gone forever? No, I'm not. But the more that you write, the more that you establish roots in your own story. But even if you're someone like me that works with clients, taking stories also from somebody else, that's where it changes. That's where creativeness turns into a form of freedom and not limiting factors. If you're feeling burnt out, if you're spiraling, if you're feeling numb, this is not the end of your creativity. I can promise you that. However, it might be the beginning of your most honest art. Because real storytelling isn't aesthetic, it is emotional. Make sure to give your girl a follow and see where our ADHD journey takes us next.